Yo, making this quick video for myself, completely for my own knowledge sake. Just want to document some stuff. Um, I was on LinkedIn today, talked to a prospect, and he said he had bad experience with his one of his partners' client had bad experience with Kinsta's speed, support, and most importantly, transactional emails. And I was basically shitted on for not knowing really transactional emails. So I think to understand transactional emails, there's a couple of things you have to understand. One is web hosting, then you have to understand email hosting, then you understand transactional emails because these are not the same thing. And essentially, if you think about it, your domain, kinsta.com, is just a domain. That domain is hosted somewhere. If you bought it from GoDaddy, you might host it there. You buy it from Port1, you might host it there. And most of what people do is they buy the domain, they own the domain, then they host it with Kinsta. So we host the WordPress site, the domain for them. So when you own Kinsta.com, sometimes you have to send emails out from Kinsta.com, right? So when you send emails, there's different types of emails. There's marketing emails, there's transactional, there's non-transactional emails, which includes marketing emails and maybe some other email types, like communications types, and there's transactional emails, and these are not the same thing. So here's how it works: your website is hosted with Kinsta. If you want, your domain is hosted with Kinsta. If you want to send an email from the email address from your website, let's say kinsta.com, abc.com, which is hosted on Kinsta, um, we don't send those emails for you. We don't manage that type of hosting for you. That is called email hosting. We want to focus on WordPress hosting only, web hosting only, right? So what we do is we recommend you for your email needs. You sign up with Google Workspace. You could go to Outlook. You could go to Soho, whatever it is. And then what you do is you sign up for Google Workspace and you get the email service there. And essentially, that is your email hosting that you get from them. And what you do is you could connect the DNS records. You could connect the MX records, which is talked about here. Once you connect the records, basically these two, basically Kinsta, your hosting provider, and the Google Workspace, your email host provider, is connected. So what happens is you could now start sending emails using Google Workspace, but the email will be from David Lee at abc.com, which you want to send it from. So all of your emails, whether it's marketing emails, communication emails, prospecting email, all that stuff will be sent from here. So essentially, you are sending it uh, from your domain, but it's through Google Workspace because we don't manage that email hosting. So that's what it means. Um, but transactional email is different. I when I first learned about this, and to be fair, like it's 3 months in, this is the second time I'm looking into this. First time someone brought it up. Um, what a transactional emails is that some visitor or user on your website, they did certain action on your website, and that action, a specific action, triggers an email being sent to them. An example could be they bought something on an e-com store site. They do a refund. They sign up for an account, and or they press um, forgot password, new password, type things. So there's an action on the website they click, and then that email gets sent to them. Okay, this type of emails are called transactional emails, and they're not sent from your. Maybe they are, but for the most part, maybe they could be, but for the most part, they're not sent from your email host company. What they do is they're sent directly from the website itself. Okay, so not from a email host provider, email provider. It's sent from the website itself. So it's different. So marketing emails is you go into your Google Workspace. I want to send an email to ABC person. You go into Google Workspace to send that email. But when a visitor go to your website, clicks a button, and then an email gets sent directly to them regarding to the action, that is sent directly from the website. That's called transactional email. Okay, so we have that. Like we offer that. I believe it's free. Well, it's free, but this comes with like specific limits to like how frequently you could do. So if you talk to a prospect and they're upset about transactional email and they ask you a question like, "Hey, how do you guys handle transactional emails?" Then first of all, I think when someone asks you like how do you handle it, that's too vague. You need to ask them like, okay, what specifically are you asking about? So like it could be a couple of things, right? Like they could be asking you, okay, I understand like transactional emails obviously sent from your site, but how is it sent? Then you can tell them, oh, so like we send it using something called mail channel, which is a email service, and then we sent it. And then what email address is it sent from? Well, you could configure that on our dashboard, and you could like play around with like what email address you want to send it from. Okay, what it shows. You could configure all these things. Okay, and then um, and then if they're asking about the limits, like every plan has a certain type of limit in terms of like how many transactional emails you could send per day. Okay, now here's the thing. I didn't know this, but pretty obvious that transactional emails could be very, 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 very important. Because imagine if you run an e-com store. If you own Nike or Gymshark, you have like a gazillion amount of purchase. Obviously, like transactional emails are extremely important. If you own Facebook, right? People are resetting their passwords every day. Obviously, transactional emails could be very important in this case, which brings to another point. I think transactional emails are probably very important to uh, dynamic site owners, not necessarily ecom, but dynamic site owners and or agencies that manages a lot of dynamic sites because they obviously have to handle that, right? So if someone asks you, how do you guys handle transactional emails? Obviously, this is important for them. You don't need to ask them, like, hey, is this a super important thing? Obviously, because if it's not super important, they would not have brought it up at all. I feel like if you own just a static site, this is something that's completely irrelevant to you, right? If you just own an agency and it's just an agency website, this is irrelevant. You don't even have a form to fill out for the most part. A lot of people just have a booking link, right? So so it sounds like it to me, I could be wrong here, but it's pretty extreme. It's either very important or not important at all, right? And if it's dynamic site, for the most part, it's important. It's more important than static sites in this context. So anyway, going back to that, when they ask you how does it work, so this is logistically how it works here. And then this is the limit in terms of how many they could send per day. Okay. And then they might also ask, okay, so what if we violate it? Okay. Um, and then this is what happens when you violate it. Or like they might ask you, what if I need more than the limit you have? Well, this is a suggestion. You use other tools. Back to the point that I didn't finish. There are literally tools out there, sauce out there that handles specifically transactional emails. That just shows you how important this item specific itself is. So if somebody asks, like, yo, how do you handle it? You should ask them, like, hey, if this is so important to you, I'm guessing you already with a transactional emails provider or like a sender for specifically this, but why aren't you using that? Right? And then you use that to dig into to actually understand how important this is to them. Instead of asking, hey, is this important? Is this super important or how important to you? Maybe just say how important it is to you. Um, but you could also ask like, why is this so important to you specifically? Or like I said, hey, if this is so important, are you already using like a provider to do specifically this? Right? So there's a difference, man. Web hosting, email hosting, and transactional emails are not the same thing. Just understand the relationship. I don't think you need to understand the details, the how to your brain yet, but just understand the skeleton, the mind map of how all these things work, the relationship between all these things, so that you can explain it to people properly. So instead of writing a long note, this is what I learned today about this.